Hey, what is going on YouTube? It's the brain to the mainframe, Nile Scala, here again for another exciting episode of Crowdfunding Comics. It's our 24th episode with the man, the myth, the legend, my co-host, my partner, my compadre, my amigo, Mr. Billy Tucci. How are we doing tonight, my friend?
Oh, we're doing pretty terrific, pal. How are you today?
Oh, I am fantastic. You know why I'm fantastic?
Why are you
Because
fantastic?
I just saw that the new Looney Tunes Warner Brothers shorts are back in theaters, and they've honed the classic era of why I love Looney Tunes so much. They brought back that old 1940s, late 40s, early 50s style of animation, and they are just phenomenal, my friend. So I encourage everyone out there to get on Google, type that in, and see the new Looney Tunes shorts that are going to be coming out this year.
All right. Yeah.
Hey, what's this new view we got here, buddy?
Oh man, it's gonna be. I think this is gonna be the view for the next until San Diego Comic-Con. I got a ton of stuff to do. I'm working on a cover today. We're doing a special San Diego. This is just the pencils for a Vampirella special San Diego special. But I didn't say that.
Oh, you didn't say that.
No, but anyway, let's get the hell with me. Let's get to our episode number 24. We've got a great guest today, a guest that's been requested not only by our viewers, not only by you, but also our past guests.
Yes.
And it's someone that you went after. You're like, we got to get this guy on. And it's so funny how we've been doing this for about 2 months now. And we're just a big fan of our next guest. He's a fantastic young man. He's someone that is perfect for our 24th episode. I think we'll be hopping into our jacked up DeLoreans and going back to the 1980s. So, hey, Matthew. Our guest is Mr. Brian Shearer. And Brian has worked on such classes as G.I. Joe's, Transformers, Doctor Who, Star Trek, and Ghostbusters. Yes. But we're going to talk about his current project. But here he is. What's happening, Brian? How are you?
Brian,
what's
how
up,
we
everybody?
doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. I'm stoked. I love you guys' layout. This is awesome.
Thank
this
you.
little thing you got going on. You're up in the YouTube game.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's all Nile and Frank Amazing, who's behind the camera, our Mr. Producer back there. But welcome to you, Brian, and congratulations on your first funded Indiegogo project. You've
Thanks.
That's your goal of 8,500, and you're sitting at just over 20K. But you got 15 days to go, and as everyone knows, you've gotta. This isn't you making 20 grand doesn't mean you pocket 20 grand.
No, not at all.
The higher your costs go. You know how it is. The higher your costs go, the higher you bring in, the more money you have to put out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, people see that big number, like, oh, you made no. No, I'm the last guy that gets anything. My pocket is last.
Exactly.
Lots
It
of
goes
bills,
into the quality
taxes.
of the book.
Yeah.
Well, everything goes back into everyone we've spoken to, except for some of the people. Well, we haven't spoken to them, but some of the people who take the money and run and do Kickstarters from 4 or 5 years ago and haven't fulfilled it. I guess they take the money and ran. But for the most part, we've got some amazing, crowdfunding centurions here, and again, you're just one of the best. So, if you don't mind, for those who watch this show right now who may not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I live in North Carolina. I've been working full time in comics for I guess I went full time 8-9 years ago, and then trying to break in before that, do little indie things here and there. But I started working for IDW doing some Doctor Who stuff, doing a lot of inks, and that's kind of how I broke in there. And then just over the years, just getting to know people, and I landed on Transformers. I did quite a bit over the years with that, and then I got spoiled because I was on G.I. Joe for over 50 issues every month, and that's kind of unheard of these days to be on a monthly book for that long. So that was kind of my whole business model of drawing for IDW and then selling the art and doing commissions, and I made it work. And here lately, they're shaking things up. They're rebooting Transformers. They're moving creative teams around, but it came at the perfect time when crowdfunding's been around for a decade, but I think the reader has in the last year or two has finally accepted it as a legit way of getting their indie books, and so. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do my own big 80s-esque robot story with just stuff that I loved when I was a kid, and I love drawing, and I'm going to write it myself and own it, and it'll be mine, and here we are.
Nice.
Oh, fantastic.
So, when did you start drawing? Have you always drawn? Did you start when you were young? And what did you like to draw? Did you write? Did you read comics? Did you watch those shows? I mean, I know you're probably you're definitely younger than when they were out there on TV for the most part. But like, what's your thing? What? Tell us about the young Brian.
Well, young Brian, I mean, I was born in the 70s, so I was there when G.I. Joe and Transformers hit the 80s versions hit, and I was ground zero for all that.
You look good.
Well, thanks. As you know, I trimmed my beard. If I let it grow, it's all white. So when I lose 12 years when I
should have lit some candles, Frank.
Yeah. But yeah, I was ground zero for all that stuff. So I grew up, always drawing, and I think every kid draws, but at some point, you're either that kid that just keeps at it, or you just lose interest and you do other things, like whether it's sports or whatever. But I was always in front of the TV, but I also was at the coffee table, drawing while I was watching stuff. And I remember I was all into. I mean, just as it turned out, my career has been heavy on Transformers and G.I. Joe, but those were the two things I was most into as a kid. Oh, cool. And I was always I remember 4th, 5th grade, I was all drawing Transformers all the time. And so, I've always been drawing, but it wasn't until probably college that I thought, if I'm ever going to actually get better, I've got to really pay attention and study deliberately and really learn how to draw. And so through my 20s, it was a long process. I've always felt like I was 10 years behind, because you see these young guys come along and they're awesome, and you're like, oh, I sucked when I was your age. But no, it's been good. It's been a steady. I've been very blessed and fortunate to have good people here in Greensboro. There's a lot of comic artists. Randy Green is here.
Yeah.
So I know Randy, and spent a lot of time with him and Rick Ketchum and all those guys. And I learned a lot from just hanging around the studio with them. I was physically in the studio with them for about 5 or 6 years. That was kind of my comic book college, where they were, you're just around good artists all day, every day, and the art pages are just floating around the studio, and you can look at them up close. So that was kind of how I learned a lot of the craft, fortunately, and then it's one of those things where things just happened at the right time, and I was in the right place, and here we are.
And then when did you actually kind of set in on a career on that? Like, when did it actually come to fruition? Like, oh my gosh, this is my career. This is happening.
Yeah. I had so many. I started out of college working for Iranian entrepreneur who was nuts, but he doing it was a graphics audiovisual company, and then from there I taught high school for a couple of years, and then about that time I was like, if I'm ever gonna try to make it work, I need to. We didn't have kids yet. My wife, we were married. I was married, and I was like, I'm going to try to go part-time job and try to break into comics. So I took the Starbucks job. I'd get up at 4 a.m, open the store, work there till 10, and then I would drive down to the studio where Randy and Rick and them were, and I'd work there the rest of the day. And that was just the schedule, and I did that for almost 5 years. And then that's when I started. At the end of that 5 years, started getting more and more work, and then finally, and it was like the month my wife got pregnant, I think I quit just before that we found out. I quit and made the leap to true full time. This is my career, and I'm still here, so nice. Making something work.
Awesome.
Well, what was? I'm sorry, kid. Now.
Oh, so what was your inspiration though, growing up? I mean, who were you looking at as the creators that inspired you in your drawings, or as you said, you watched a lot of this stuff growing up? So was it what you were watching inspired you, or did you actually get into the creators that were creating these things?
Well, I think I was more into the cartoons. My comic book, I would get I didn't read a lot of superhero stuff growing up, because the comics I had were what, if my mom or my grandma or my aunt or whatever, they were at a store, and the beauty of the spinner rack, right?
Yeah.
Impulse buy, let's get this for Brian. So I always had Scrooge McDuck, and I had a Fat Albert comic, it was just these bizarre cartoony kind of things. And I think that impacted me just because I tend to be a little more cartoony, fun style. But that, and then the animated stuff. When I started going into the comic shop, like I didn't know any names. I just knew that art's cool. Oh, I like that. And for years, that's how it was. Now looking back, I see that I was really attracted to like Neil Adams, like his Batman. I loved.
Yeah.
I loved like all the Jose Garcia Lopez stuff.
Oh.
To me, his stuff is like that. That's who Wonder Woman is. That's still to this day. That's Superman. That's Batman. That's all those characters. So I was influenced, not knowing who they were until probably college or later, and then I was like, oh, these people, they're actual people attached to these things. So and then since then, I loved Michael Ringo's work. I tend to gravitate towards fun styles, like the gritty and the hyper realistic. For a long time, I tried to draw like that, and it's not what comes naturally to me. And I told the story earlier to someone else that early on I tried to draw like I thought I should draw to get into Marvel or DC for years. And just out of frustration, at a certain point, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to draw like I want to draw. It's fun, just whatever stuff. And my skill level leaped ahead. And I had friends come up and say, "What did you do?" And I just said, "I just started doing what I wanted to do and not quit trying to be somebody else." And that was a big thing too. And today I love looking at. There's so much good stuff online, not necessarily coming from Marvel or DC, but there's so many great artists and that are doing such good stuff now that you could get lost just looking online and spend so much time and not actually doing your own work.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Now, where did you go to school?
I went to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. I got a public relations degree that I never used. I was one of those guys that you go to college because you go to college. You get the degree to get a job, and then like everybody else, you don't use the degree, and then you figure out what you want to do with your life. So it's been a long and winding road. I wish I was one of those guys that at 18 was like, oh, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, out of the womb. It's like, no, I always liked to draw and I always liked comics. And it wasn't until, much a little late, I feel a little late, that it all worked out. But I guess looking back, it wasn't. At the time when you're 27, 25, to me now, I'm like, oh, you're young. But at the time, you're like, oh, this is going to be the rest of my life at this job, doing this.
Yeah. Well, you're kind of similar to Jeff Smith, worked at McDonald's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
After school, putting together Bone.
Oh, okay.
He wanted his book, and he's like, no, I'm going to follow my dream, and I want to be a cartoonist and all that. And so it's funny, you're Starbucks, and he's the McDonald's guy, and you're both doing pretty
right.
well for
yourself. Well, that's the thing about following a dream, though. It's like you tell people, following a dream sometimes mean you got to get the part-time job, right? Yeah. It's like you just don't hop out blind with nothing. It's like you work and you pay the bills, and then after that you push through and hopefully you make the transition. It's messy. It's not neat, but
yeah,
there it is.
So would you say that once you made that commitment, you quit your job, the part-time job, and your wife is pregnant, there was no plan B, was there?
At that point,
yeah,
no, that was the leap. That was I'm in it. This has to work. And now it wasn't a blind leap. Like it was a risk, but I'd laid the groundwork. I'd gotten work at IDW. I was doing commissions. I knew from what I was making just on the art side and balancing it with the Starbucks, I was like, if I just invest the time in Starbucks into this, I'm probably as much or more altogether. So it paid off. And now I will say that I was working on a Doctor Who miniseries at the time, and that's what it was. I quit. We were pregnant. I had to work for 6 months on a miniseries, and then I didn't work for 6 months except for commissions. Like it was just pulling teeth. And so then right at when it was just then I started talking to people, and I started getting maybe some indie projects here and there, and then that's when the G.I. Joe Transformer wave hit, and that lasted, the next 7 years. So,
what was your first job, and then how did the G.I. Joe Transformers, how did it turn around all of a sudden at this right time? Like, did you get a call? Did you submit something?
Let's see. I know that Kelly Yates was working on Doctor Who, and we were in the studio together. And he just needed help. Like, early on, I would ghost some people inks if they needed it, or if there was just need to meet a deadline. So I started doing some of that. And he was, I think this must have been 2008 or so. He was doing a Doctor Who miniseries and needed help, and I helped out, and that's how I got to know the editor over there. And so I just started sending stuff, and then Kelly started the miniseries, but he couldn't finish it, and I was inking the whole time, so I ended up finishing it. So that kind of got me in with the editorial staff. And I think what happened was because I was constantly emailing them, I was going to San Diego and talking to them face to face. Once a year, but still, that once a year, you at least put a face with my email that I'm sending you. They ran into trouble. Let's see. Oh no! Well, when my son was born, that's when I got my first GI Joe. I remember being in the hospital with my wife in labor, inking a page of GI Joe.
Oh.
and she was in labor for 24 hours, so I had time to kill.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? So I can't remember exactly how that one came about, but in that issue, there was a flashback scene with a different artist, and that artist was Shannon Gallant. And he really liked my inks over him. And so he was like, I want to get this guy. I want to get this guy. And for all the years that I spent knocking on the doors and trying to get work, for some reason at that time, it was like things kept coming up. I couldn't do the book right away, but he kept asking, get this guy, get this guy, get this guy.
Nice.
And finally, I just started working on it, and they gave me some Transformer stuff too, because they ran into like 4 issues here and there. And then me and Shannon just hit it off, and he was the I know he's the longest running penciler on GI Joe. I think me, him, and Jim Brown were the longest running creative team on Larry Hama's run. So because it was all of us for 6 years pretty much straight.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So yeah.
Good run too, man. Holy cow.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like I said, it was it came at the right time, and I'm still doing some stuff here and there for them. I mean, it's with comics changing, and you know how it is. It's you work on a book forever, and that's one of the things that I love about crowdfunding and doing your own book now, because it's great to work on Transformers, it's great to work on GI Joe,
Mm-hmm.
but you cash those checks, you're done. You don't own the property. At the end of the day, where do you go? You're a guy that worked on Transformers and GI Joe, and it has value. Like you connect with an audience, people get to know you, you get better, you get this work. But if you're any kind of writer, creative type, there is that thing. I want to make my own thing that a company somewhere else doesn't own.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've said it before, there's nothing like it. Now you'll see. There's nothing like someone coming up to you and giving you a book that you wrote, you illustrated, you own, a property you own, and ask you to sign it. And then they say thank you to you. And you're like, no, thank you.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, this is the first with Thunderpunch. I've gotten so much fan art now. Like the book's not even out, and people are sending me their own versions of Thunderpunch. Like, wow, that's pretty amazing.
It's some gravitating work, man. I'll tell you that. I looked at it and fell in love, and I'm like, God, I love this. And at the time when I first discovered it, I'll be honest, I wasn't too familiar with your work. And then obviously researching, I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. G.I. Joe's, Transformers, the style that you have with your own creations. I was like, this is right up my alley. And
cool.
I fell in love with it right away. And I could totally see why your fans are going out there and showing you their versions of your creations, because they already appreciate it without having the product, because you sold it, man. You sold it with what you have here. And I'm pretty pumped to get this.
Oh, cool. I appreciate it. I mean, the fans are great, and that's the nice thing too about all this is, it's I every time I talk about the campaign, I say we just without thinking about it, and I corrected myself today. Then I thought, no, you know what? It really is we, because I can't do this. Like, it's not only crowdfunding, it's crowd promoting, and people, if they're pumped about a project and they want to add things on and make the project better, then they're the ones out there doing like the PR stuff too, because the creator can only do so much.
Yeah. Now, do you find like a lot of your fans reaching out to you, like private messaging you, this and that, like, hey, do you mind if I do this, or hey, can I help share this or that? Are you getting any of that?
As far as for Thunderpunch, you mean? Like
for Thunderpunch, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people have asked. I get when people are doing fan art, for example, they'll say, "How tall is he? Where is he? How I'm working on something. How tall is this robot?" And so it's great. I mean,
That's awesome.
I've definitely struck a nerve, and I didn't realize this when I did it. Several people have made the comment that indie comics doesn't seem to have robot stories or big robot, that kind of genre. And I thought about it. I was like, yeah, I guess that's right. So maybe I've hit like a little itch that fandom has. Like they just want a fun, big robot story that's new and different. And well, I guess I got you covered. So,
well, hey Nile.
Yes.
Before we get into talking about Gunship Thunderpunch, could we maybe run his video?
Well, yeah, definitely.
And then that'd be a nice lead in, and we can, and then we can get right into, into his project and everything.
Yeah,
like
we'll
that.
get into his Indiegogo here, guys. So let's check in at it. So, now he doesn't have a video for his.
I don't have a video actually.
Oh,
And
Indiegogo.
I'll tell you the reasoning behind that. Well, there's two things. One was a technological thing where my computer is running out of memory. And but the other thing is, after talking to people and thinking about how I back things and look at things on Indiegogo, the video very, very rarely sells me one way or the other. And I heard a lot of people saying that too. And I think that a strong image, especially the top third of the page, you have that imagery and that much space to sell the product.
Yeah.
And I actually was thinking about going back, maybe adding at this point, since it's the mid lull of the campaign, it might not hurt. But talking to so many people that are just like, well, I either they don't watch the video or they had already decided based on the imagery whether or not to back it.
Oh, that's and it's so funny because my wife did they tell you the semantics and when you do have a video, they talk about how long people watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And at our video was 2 minutes or under 2 minutes, and it's almost like 90% of the people don't watch the whole video.
Yeah.
Even when it's short. So you're absolutely, you're right about that. That's
Well, talking to other people with very successful campaigns, they look at the stats like that, and it's like the book was not sold. This was not successful because of the video, because either they're not watching it, the percentage of people on the page versus who actually clicked on it is low, and the ones that watched it didn't watch it the whole way through.
Yeah.
And I think it might be important for if you have if you're demonstrating a product, if you have a video project or a music project, yeah, you need video because those are media components.
Yeah.
But comics is such a visual medium. People want to see the art, they want to see characters, they want to see story, and they want to see your pitch. Yeah. And so try to keep it. I'm personally just trying to keep it simple and
yeah. Well, like I said, I think the way you set yours up. Yeah, you don't need a video for yours. But in my experience of what I've seen, there are some out there that the video definitely helps sell their product because you can see that you're able to catch on to the story with what you've laid out here. So it's easy. You see great art, right? You're showing pages, finished pages with lettering. I mean, you get what you're getting, and it's again, like I said, I mean, the quality is here. It's obvious. For some creators out there, they don't put this type of material out. They might not even be at that stage. So the video helps sell, what they're doing. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's, to each their own and how they want to set it up. But, I mean, you right here, I mean, look at this, guys. I mean, we have a goal here is set for $8,500. 14 days left to go. You have 371 backers, and you've now broken over the $20,000 mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, I didn't expect it. I thought, I'm the worst case scenario guy in general, but it seems like I thought I was going to be a grind to get it funded, and it was funded within 9 hours, and we had 10K by the end of the first day. Mm-hmm. So it was just it went, and I'm telling people too, because a lot of people think you just put up a campaign like I'm gonna do a book, throw it up, but it's like you have to cultivate a relationship now online with your audience before you launch.
Yeah.
And wherever this has been kind of eye-opening because me and a couple friends who launched the same week, it's really been sticking the thermometer in your efforts and your social media presence, because those first 2 days, that takes the temperature. That's how well you've connected. If people come in and they fund you immediately, then you're doing a good job they're investing in you is what they're investing in, and the project. They're not going to back, but they want you to succeed because you've been treating them well.
Yep.
Exactly.
Now, were you nervous? Like you said that you weren't sure. You thought it was going to be grind to get it. How were you like the night before it launched or the night of?
It was stressful, man. I was. It's just, it doesn't matter. You always like, oh, what if? And I kept telling people, what if I'm only, because I kept announcing it. People were like, we're so stoked, and I'm thinking, am I just seeing the same 6 people over and over, and I'm imagining it's like all these people, and it's hard to tell. And so for me, especially with putting all my energy into this, and it really almost, this is all, and I think a lot of us are testing the water, seeing, can we make it as a self-publishing creator, business person now? So for me, this is almost like the Hail Mary transition. Can this work? And so I was scared it wasn't going to. And then it's like, well, if that doesn't, and it really is the case that we just got to keep pounding editors' doors and trying to get that work. It's like, what does the future look like? And so that's what was scary to me. And but as it turns out, the market is strong. The readers want good stories. They've accepted this format, and so I'm excited. I'm jazzed, man.
Yeah. So I just saw a question pop up that I want to jump into. So William Sleeper asks, hey, so how can we reach the comic shop crowd? I like the crowd-funded ideas, but I think we need to get these books out to wider audiences.
Yeah, I think that's also a great idea. I definitely, I was on Peter Sameti's show, Alterna Comics, and he said, hey, when all this is done, let's talk, about doing that. And so it's like, it's not, I don't think it's either or. I think you can crowdfunding and have this specific thing for this trade paperback. You get special stuff with this. Maybe after the fact, then you do a version for shops. Work out a deal with the publisher, because since they can see that there's a market. So again, things are so in flux right now. The market's changing, the business is changing, and we don't know where it's going to land. So I love comic shops. I love my comic shop people and the people, my friends that own shops. And it's like, I want to do right by them. We're just trying to figure out how it all works. Crowdfunding, in my opinion, it's more difficult if you're doing a monthly book, right? And it's like, because that's because that's the old, monthly books are basically periodicals. It's like magazines. They work beautifully on a spinner rack coming out regularly. Crowdfunding, it probably needs to be a thicker book. But that's one of the things we're trying to figure out,
I think something that we could do to answer that from what I'm planning, because we're going to start going in late 2019. Well, we're getting later into 2019, like through Diamond to solicit it. And I love comic shops too. I wouldn't be here talking to you if it weren't for comic shops and Diamond comic distributors and all. But what I think could work is if you actually get your book crowdfunded first, and then either find someone like Peter, and we love Peter, and he's brilliant. I couldn't think of anyone better to stick with if you don't want to publish yourself. But what I would also offer is then offer the comic shops a guarantee in-store date. And that means your book is like in stores the first week of that month. So if you solicit for April, they know that book is in the stores on April 7th or whatever that date is. And if it's not, you give them say you make it returnable. But the cool thing is that they'll know that your books, the independent books, will be on time, because it is hard to put out books on time. There's so many variables come into play with it. And one being that we all care so much, it seems, about it, that we all want to put our best foot forward. I mean, right? I mean, we can draw a book. You can draw a book in a week. It's going to look like you drew it in a week, but that's not you. You know what I mean? So what I think is cool about having that is that the retailers, and you could send them a preview edition, they know that comic is done. And then they can, especially something as visually striking as yours, they can show that book either on a tablet or on their phones even, or on their computer. They can show it to the fans and say, look, this book's in previews. It's like a digital preview. Even previews could put it on Diamond could put it on their website and have a little video of the images showing that this book is done. 5 or 6 really strong images. And I think that can help us compete with the big 2 or 3,
Yeah, definitely. And the thing too, especially with Peter, you were talking about something after the book is finished, right? So you get the thing crowdfunded, you get your initial backers that came in, you get them taken care of, they get the book. And then, even if it's like a year later, the comic shops can get theirs, because that's a whole new market. It's not like, that market is saturated. So with your book. So, there's options, and I'm open. I mean, let's take care of the shops. Let's do crowdfunding. Let's see what works. I mean, I would long for the day when comic books, the floppies, were an impulse buy, next to the gum at the store. Yeah. You want to see sales take off?
Yeah.
Do that. That's why, the magazines are still there. That's why the what better way to reach, you have the tired mom with the kid that she just wants to get quiet. Here, just read this. Just take this.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be on the super glossy like what Peter's doing. He's putting them out on newsprint.
Yeah, he's back in newsprint. Yeah.
Yeah, making them really affordable.
Yeah.
And newsprint today isn't like newsprint, of yesteryear, and especially with the colors carry over, really well with newsprint. Yeah. They look great, the books.
Yeah, but like you're saying, I mean, if you could get it, I think your backers pretty much kind of get, I would hate, say the Cadillac version, and then your, local comic shops are more your traditional comic, start getting it out there. This way, you don't, the people that have, paid what they've paid to fund your project or whatever you have don't feel like, oh man, geez,
Yeah.
Everyone's getting it at a different rate or something.
Well, yeah, it's like I think the people that come in, you have to look at it like the crowdfunded version is the collector's edition, and you got to get in early. It's the exclusive. It's you get in, and then later on, it'll come out, in a maybe a newsprint, or it'll come out in a different. So the story will still be there. I want to get the story out, but the fancy version with all the extras and the trading cards and all this, you got to get in ground floor for that.
Exactly. So let's get a little bit into, what is Gunship Thunderpunch? I mean, let's get into this. How did you come to start creating it? Bring us through the origin story to where we're at today.
All right. So the story itself is about Mars and Earth have been at war, and the Martians kidnap Nova Marcos' son. And to get him back, she has to find and activate this old gunship. So the catch is the only person that knows where it is and how to activate it is the former commander, but he's in prison serving a life sentence. So she has to break him out and find the ship. What she doesn't realize is the ship is sentient and has been abandoned in a junkyard for about 30 years, and he's not too happy. So it's a lot of sci-fi, Mars, robots, mechs, ships, all that cool stuff I loved as a kid, and get to design my own and draw them, and space and all that stuff.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. So can you tell us about some of the characters? Like what is it? Why is the captain of the ship of Thunderpunch, why is he serving a life sentence? Unless it gives away the story, we don't want to do that.
Well, actually, that kind of is addressed in the very first few pages with a flashback. He's the commander of Gunship. He essentially deserts in the middle of a pretty intense battle in this future war. He is sentenced to life in prison because it resulted in some pretty big destruction of Earth cities and things. So and he is at heart a bit of a coward. Well, not coward, but total self-preservation. Mm-hmm. A lot of the story is without giving too much away, is going to be his kind of arc, his story, his redemption throughout this thing, because he's at odds with everybody. Thunderpunch is been sitting there, has probably it's sentient, but been sitting there for about 30 years, but has the maturity of maybe about 20, early 20 something. And Nova Marcos is a medical doctor. She's actually the inmate's doctor, which is kind of how she has the end to get him out, to break him out. And it's her son that has been kidnapped. So she's got to assemble this team, and she's kind of in over her head. She doesn't know that this is the last place she can turn, and it's not the people that she would have chosen. So in the middle of this, you've still got this protracted Martian Earth war, and you got these, gives me a chance to draw some cool Martian robots and ships and things, and just have different settings as they're trying to get from point A to point B and rescue. And it's gonna be a blast. I'm really excited about it. I think I've been most excited about this story than a lot of things, most things I've done in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, I love characters like that, like the captain. At first he might not be likable because you see that maybe he was a coward, mm-hmm. and and he's the self-preservation as opposed to him being, the misunderstood, hero type of thing. I love the idea of how, and characters like that. I've always had a soft spot for characters like that, and. Well,
I'm trying to make it definitely a human, very human story, even for the robot. It's got to have some. There's a lot about it, being abandoned and becoming its own person, so to speak. So you throw these characters together under these really extreme circumstances. And I love stories that talk about redemption for this person who's just the worst, right? And so and family, and you have cool robots, you have cool things in stories, but I think that a lot of things that people miss and don't get right is when they try to focus so much on the cool robot, but they just leave out any human story in it, so people can connect. I'm trying to do both. I'm trying to do stuff that looks cool, that's fun, and has that feeling of stuff I grew up with, but at the same time, it's got this very relatable human story to it.
All right,
nice,
fantastic. Trackfield he just funded your book. He just posted in the comments. All right, thanks, man. Yeah, guys, check this out, and if you get a chance, check it out and fund it.
Yeah, Nile, I have my laptop here. I don't have my this is like the mini Blevins Media Center. But I got a couple of emails or Facebook messages from people who want to be asking questions. So if I can't see who they are to read myself, so Frank Amazing can, because I think we're going to have some good questions with this one, with Brian, because it's just I love that it's original. I love the whole look. I love the whole nostalgic aspects of it. Mm-hmm. And where did you come up with the name, Brian?
Well, I had originally had the gunship part was there for a long time, and when I was getting ready to launch, actually, it was me and Doug Tenaple and Elliot Fernandez were in a private hangout. We were just talking about stuff, and I'd put up the first pass of this, the campaign and the pitch, and the consensus was that the title didn't have enough grab. Like, I like the gunship part, and I don't remember, just through the process of brainstorming, Thunderpunch came up, and I was like, oh, Gunship Thunderpunch has a really good sound to it. So I was like, yeah, I think that's it. And that name actually influenced a redesign of the robot, because once you get that name, it's like the character is just like, oh, there he is. Okay, yeah, and it unlocked quite a bit for me. So that was like, I was on probably the second or third draft of the plot, and then once I even landed on the name, it was like the last little chunk went ka-chink, and it was like, oh, there it is. Okay. So yeah, and then it's that's the fun part of the process, is like when you hit a name or you hit a visual, and then the character is just there, and it's just because once I hit that design of this robot, I knew exactly who he was, and so that was exciting.
Mm-hmm. So now Gunship Thunderpunch, I mean, he transforms into a ship, right?
Yeah, he is a gunship. Yeah, an outdated gunship.
Awesome. So the character designs that you have shown on the bottom here, as you start to scroll down, are these is this the enemy ship here?
Yes. Yeah, those are the Martian walker mech attack things. All the Martian stuff is rust colored because they're from Mars.
Yep.
And I tell people, when I was designing these, I'll just take a big fat Sharpie, and I was just trying to get a shape, right?
Yeah.
And the problem with doing anything with ships or mechs is that Japan has done everything. And so I was on a live stream, and I would do a shape, and somebody in the chat would go, that's such and such from this thing I'd never heard of. I'm like, what? And I would Google it. It's like, holy crap, it's just like that. And it was that for a long time. It was frustrating. And then the thing that kind of broke it for me was, I just said, why don't I just look at nature and do something that's based more on, like a bug, which has been done. But I think that when you go nature as, in a sense, the source, and then you put your own spin on it, you're more likely to hit on that or thing original to you. So that was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, these are going to be more kind of they've in the kind of mythos of the world, the story. Mars is kind of adopted this insect-like design scheme because insects just survive everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
So there's the Earth ships are more those blue ones there, and the.
Well,
and then another Mars ship here.
Yeah, those are, man, that's great. God, you're talented.
Thank you.
Talented. You are, wow. I love that the more organic feel to the Martian thing, so it looks so different. You know what I mean? Ours, it's a nice deviation to, I'm sorry, not a deviation, but a nice what you call it, contrast between who the Earth ships are, and who the alien ships are, and that's always comic book when you know that and everything doesn't look the same, you know?
Yeah, you got to have a clear visual. I mean, I'm going for you know, with the exception, well, you know who the good guys and the bad guys are. You know what the danger is, even with the characters that you don't like that require an arc where they have to change. At least you know where everybody stands in the moment, and once you establish that, you can go places. But visually, from ships and things, I wanted it to look. That's one of the things I don't like about like like Michael Bay movies and stuff. Transformers, like you really don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Like, from a character design, like when they're fighting, it's like I don't know what's going on. So, and I think even people that like the movies, if they're honest, I think they are like, yeah, it got a little confusing. So I just wanted to do something going back to like clear character design, clear ship design, and just something that's I'm kind of doing brighter colors. It's not grimy and gritty. I mean, there's rust and things, but it's not this overwhelming. You shouldn't feel like you have cataracts when you look at it. Like you look at a superhero movie a lot of times now, it's like it's so dark. It's like, what? I don't.
Like
am I the problem?
Yeah.
Same. I'm gonna move my mic over here if this sounds a little better. Does it sound a little better, or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, it sounds a little better actually.
I had it all the way on the other side, so I apologize.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, you seem to have you've got Nile. There's a question here. It's your question. Do you see it? About he's got a guest on.
No, I don't see it.
It's after. What can you tell us about Gunship Thunderpunch? It's your question. I don't want to read it.
Oh, I'm looking in the chat.
Someone is doing a variant cover for him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So who do you have?
I'm really excited about, and you wanted to ask this question.
Is that the
Milne?
question? Yeah, Alex Milne is doing my variant cover. He's a longtime Transformers, probably the most like I know all the Transformer guys and girls, and we hang out at cons and stuff. I think he's probably the most fan favorite. But he's a good friend of mine, and he was excited about Thunderpunch even when I first started talking about it, and he said, I want let me do something for you. That's awesome. And so I was like, would you like to do a variant cover? Yeah. It's like, okay. So he's doing the variant. That was it.
Oh, that was it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And so that's unlocked, right?
15K. Actually, he just sent me the pencils yesterday, so I posted those to Twitter. I haven't made it in an update yet. That's one of the things I got to do, but it looks great. The early bird special, which I'm probably going to close here pretty soon because it's no longer early bird, but has a metal prints of the covers, so you'll get a metal print of Alex's cover. So if you like Alex, it's not a bad perk to get.
Yeah, no. Can you explain what the early bird perks are and how they work?
Yeah, it's just something that we put up early that it's limited number. So you get everything. You get both versions of the book with the cover, the variant cover. You get the prints. You get the trading cards, all that stuff. But the special thing is the metal prints, 6x9 metal prints of each cover. Oh, wow. So there was only 100. I'm probably going to close that pretty soon. I may put something else different up, maybe a late bird special. Who knows what it'll be called? But the early bird. I saw some other people doing that. Mike Miller was doing it, and Elliot did it. Fernandez did it. So I'm like, you know what? In this thing, we're all kind of looking at each other, going, "What are you doing? Is that working? What are you doing? Yeah. I'm going to do that." So that's kind of where that came from.
And it is cool, isn't it, that what a lot of us are, that we're doing this together, that so many of us, so many creators and so many, are helping one another out with their friends' projects or their colleagues or their compadres or even competitors' projects. I think it's a real nice sense of community, not only amongst the creator and the fan, because we are reaching out directly to the fans themselves. But I mean, how cool is it that you get to converse with all these other creators, and you guys can spin ideas off one another and all that,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, there's some friendly competition going on. We kind of rib each other, and but I really, when you get down to it, the thing with crowdfunding is that I really don't think it's a zero-sum game. I think that when one of us helps, when we all do good, we all do good. right? It's not like I need to get ahead of this person. I don't want you to know my secrets, because that doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work. Because people want fun entertainment, and when and I think for the fans too, they like it when they're watching the creators they like get along. That's what they want too. They're people are in general tired of drama, and they want some fun stories, and they want the creators they like to be just stand up people, and let's all have fun and let's do this thing, and they like seeing them help each other out, and I do think it's good when we're sharing things too. It does kind of, in one sense, I think it is good to have consistent things across different crowdfunding, so people are used to what the kind of thing, and there's some deviation from that, but like getting an early bird special, if that becomes a thing where like that could help people come in early, I want to get the special thing, and they just know, oh, there will probably be a tier that's only there for a limited time, let me get in early. So standardizing a little bit the thing, so it's a little bit Wild West but some familiarity, right? You don't want total chaos.
Right.
But,
right. So now this is your first Indiegogo project, but you also did some Kickstarters in the past. What made you decide to go a different route and to go Indiegogo as opposed to Kickstarter?
Well, I went back and forth. Indiegogo, the biggest thing for me was the ability to switch it to in demand afterwards. And when you're doing a book, because the two books that I've done before on Kickstarter, they were done before I even launched Kickstarter.
Okay.
This one is, here's the pitch. I'm working on this. Do we want to make this happen? So now that it has happened, while I'm finishing up the book, I can switch that from campaign to in demand, so people can still order the book. Because I always found in Kickstarter, no matter how much I promoted, no matter how much I worked at it, I always got, oh no, I missed it. I didn't know about this. Where can I get it? And it's like, okay, let's open that window up a little bit so more people can come on. You can still promote it and still, get those extra orders in. Why Kickstarter doesn't do that, I have no idea. But and two, the second reason was that everybody has just kind of gravitated towards Indiegogo for indie comics. I mean, there's still there's crossover back and forth, but it just seems the hot place right now is here, and so I will go where the people are. If that's where the fans want to show up, I'm there with you.
Yeah, or you can do both.
You can do both, yeah.
I did both, and we're planning on the same thing, because we found that there are some people that will only buy on Kickstarter. There are some people that will only buy on Indiegogo. So why not give them both?
Sure.
Sure. I mean, everyone
that's an option too.
Gunship Thunderpunch, buddy.
Yeah, that's an option too. I mean, again, that's one of those things where we're trying to figure out, like, do we treat Indiegogo and Kickstarter like two big stores, right? Do we want to get it in Walmart? We want to get it in Target, because some people go here, some people go there. So that's the thing we're trying to all work out. And we're watching each other. We're watching you do those two things. You're watching us. We're talking to each other, and we're saying, oh, so the next one, what are we going to do for that? So it's I don't know. I kind of enjoy it. Like, as much as I was not business minded growing up, it's kind of getting into this. It is kind of exciting. Everybody's their own little business, and we're all trying to talk to each other and figure out what works and what doesn't. And in addition to drawing the book. So
it's a lot of because you're wearing so many hats now. You're not just a penciler or a penciler inker. You're a penciler inker writer, and you're a shipping manager, and you're an editor, and you're a promoter, right? I mean, it doesn't stop. But I don't know. I thrive on it. It really gets me going. I haven't worked this hard in a long, long time, and probably since I was publishing, 10 she-books a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's great. It's exhilarating because it is a real sense of freedom, and of course, it's always fun to work for the majors. You know what I mean? And to work for these books like these books that you loved growing up as a kid, or these cartoons and things like that. But like I said, there's nothing like it being your own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got you have all the creative control, and it's yours at the end of the day, right?
Right. Well, it's like, when you're I think everybody, when they come up and they're, oh, I'm working on such and such a character that I grew up loving, and now I get to work on it officially. But after a while, you realize you really got to take your fate into your own hands, so to speak. If you're and some people just want a pencil, just want to be an inker, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you have any inkling whatsoever of freedom and not having to be dependent on someone else to give you work, then you need to assign yourself your own work and put on all those other hats. And it's tiring, and it's I get tired. Like I always tell people, you're a factory, and the factory's making comics, but every time the marketing department goes to work, the factory shuts down.
Yeah.
And every time the accounting thing goes, the factory shuts down. But when the factory's going, the marketing's not working. So it's frustrating and it's tiring. But at the end of the day, when you look back and you launch an Indiegogo and people come in, or you go to a show and people come up and say, hey, I watch your live stream. I just wanted to come over and meet you and all that stuff. It's like, wow, yeah, that's very satisfying. And it's like, okay, so all this is working, and it's a much more satisfying than just wake up, got a pencil, ink this page, send it off, go to bed. I don't own that, by the way. That's not my character. So, yeah.
Now you have a lot of experience with this, and you have something that's pretty unique about yourself, because with your Kickstarters you've had 3 projects. 2 were successful, but 1 wasn't.
Yeah.
So and what was that feeling like? Because I'm sure there are people that watch, and we get a lot of people that watch your shows afterwards and stuff that want to crowdfund their own books. What was it like to not have it funded, and how did you get back into crowdfunding another project? How did you get back on that horse?
Well,
I would imagine I've only done 2, and I would imagine it's got to be heartbreaking, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. That first one, the very first one I ever did, and this would have been 7 years ago or so. This was early on. And it was for a 150-page graphic novel that was done. We had done it, me and a friend of mine had done it as a web comic. And we had built up okay readership. I mean, it was the dynamics were different. Just as far as the landscape of crowdfunding and things. But we just did the book, we threw it up, and it was just tweeted out and try to get it funded. And our goal to do that at the time with printing costs, I think it was kind of high for just out of the blue, especially that time. It was like $9,000. I don't remember what we got, but it was not $9,000,
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, oh well, what do we do? And I backed off for a bit, and I started doing that's when I was doing my own book, William the Last. And what I did was I started the web comic just for me. Like I didn't promote it. I didn't do any. I just put this thing up every week for 3 months or 4 months and didn't say anything. And then when I had a little backlog, I shared it, and people really liked it. So they kind of fell in love with the story and things. And it was kind of my little passion side project. And I went and said, well, okay, I'm going to take a step back. And instead of coming out of the gate with this big, thick book asking for nearly $10,000, I'm going to do the first chapter with some extra stuff and $2,000-$3,000 just to get it printed and send it out. And I made like $40 higher than my goal, right? It was like, I got funded. It's like, okay, great. So I started small, and I got that out. I fulfilled it. I got it shipped. And my next step was last year, I'd have a 116-page art book that was graphic novel size. All right, what do I need to get this printed? I think it was like, at this point, printing costs had changed. It was like $6,000 or something like that. And I started pushing that, and I funded that, and that went over by, I think it was it went up to 9,000.
Nice.
So I was like, okay, all right, we're heading in the right direction here. So got that out, got that fulfilled, and being a bigger book and offering more perks. Like I had you could get the book, and then every book had a sketch in the back. And then I had a tier where you had an inked drawing, 9x12 inked, piece of cake, did that. Then I had a tier if everything up was colored, and it was like that just ground to a halt. So it was like, you got to color all, and then I had the 11 by 17 color. So that I learned a lot in that, got those out. And for this one, which is why if you look at the highest tier, you can only get the color thing, but there's only 20 of them. Like, I put a cap on that because I know what I can do. So it was like a learning process of having to step back, learn from that, step up, see what slowed me down, readjust. And then for this one is the first one where it's like, okay, the book's in progress. It's not done. Let's see if people want it. And this one, again, just took off, has already done more than twice as much as the art book did last year. So I think the mistake I made, and that a lot of people make, is coming out of the gate with a big project up front, and also not taking that time to develop the relationship with your audience with social media, because crowdfunding is social. It's all social. You gotta, it's not just do the project and put it up. It's like, you gotta have some lead up time. You've got to let people know. People have to get to know you. They're investing more in you and the content you've provided over the last 8 months. If you're on YouTube every day, talking, entertaining, showing how to draw something or whatever, if they're getting value from you, then they're going to show appreciation when you go launch your book.
Right.
Yeah. That makes true. That's a lot of sense. You got to hype it up. You got to market it. People got to know who you are. And not so you're only just hitting your fans. You want to create new fans while building up this product. And I think, what you've done with Indiegogo here has proven that philosophy.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And he's right. I mean, you had a really great point, Brian, when you said when the marketing department is working, the art department isn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hope people understand that, because we're not these giant corporations with 10 or so employees. Yeah. I mean, you're doing everything.
Yeah. It's all very organic. It's all word of mouth. And this is why, and I'm also doing, I've been saying this on my Twitter, that, because Indiegogo shows me who the top referrers are. So the top 10 referrers, after the thing's over, I'm going to send original art to. So if I can see that y'all are out spreading the word, it'll tell me how much money has come from each individual person, because you get a unique ID thing up there when you go to the link and you share it. And so I'm doing that as just a reward for people that have taken the time just to share. But I have found that when people are excited about a project, you don't really have to beg them to share anything. They'll just do it. Yeah. They're excited to be a part of it.
Yeah. Hey guys, we got a bunch of people watching with us tonight, so if you can hit that like button for Brian, we would totally appreciate it, as well as helping it out there and continue spreading the word on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you're on, MeWe, whatever it's called. Share this, go in, copy the link, share it through, spread the word. And Brian, let me ask you just one question here is, now, I know we kind of went in kind of how Gunship Thunderpunch came to be, but how long did it actually take you? For aspiring creators out there who have their ideas, I mean, what process did you follow, and how long did it take you to get there?
Well, this particular one has been rolling around for probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years or so. And it was always one of those things, I want to do this space thing with mechs and robots and ships, but I couldn't really get the hook. Like, well, okay, what is it about? Well, it's about this character, and it was very slow. And I was doing other things, like I was doing William the Last. I'm still doing that. And Antarctic is publishing that for me. And but last year, I think it was at San Diego, I was talking to somebody about it, and the conversation really pushed me in that moment to really verbalize what it was. And in that moment, I worked out quite a bit for the first draft, but it still didn't feel right. And so it was just kind of frustrating going back and forth. And I did this whole bigger cast of characters, and I had the robot went through so many iterations, and then you show it to friends, and they're like, oh, that's cool. And then you show it to others, like, this isn't working. This doesn't do it for me. And you're like, okay, well, let me. So it was very, very slow. I had written, half of a script, like formal script with descriptions and the dialogue and stuff. And the next big step the story took, all that was just in the trash. It was just like, oh, nope, that's not where it's going. So again, that's just rewrites and drafts. So it took a good, almost solid year of thinking and just being frustrated, and before you finally hit on that thing that was missing. And once you hit that, it's like, okay. You just kind of break that story or that character or whatever. And then it's exciting. But I think a lot of people just kind of give up before they get there. And I think the skill is to know when you have the seed of a good idea, but also knowing with that everything that husk that needs to fall away, right? Because we fall in love with our own characters, we fall in love with our own ideas, and they're our babies, and you got to be willing to just say, nope, you're not mine, you're not it, get out.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So that's the trick. That's the struggle. That's the thing. And don't, there's definitely you can never get the perfect. Like, perfection will kill you. Don't try to be perfect. But if you have that sense that it's not quite right yet, it's not time, you need to listen to that. And especially if it comes from friends, especially if they're pro artist friends that have been doing it longer than you have, and they look at it and go, this is good, this isn't working. Take your moment, be mad for a half a second, and then you'll probably go, and about the next day you'll go, yeah, he was right.
Gather yourself back together.
Yeah.
Do you ever, if I may ask a personal question, because my wife and I will go through this, and we've been doing this since college, and you get that idea that you fall in love with, and then like you said, if someone's like, yeah, no, it's not good. You got to rework this, and you get angry. You know what I mean?
You're all excited. It's because you're excited. You're all pumped, and then somebody says, "Hey, that thing you're excited about, not exciting." And you're like, "Oh, you shut up!
Yeah,
you don't know nothing." That's the thing. But it's like, you. But the thing is, when it comes from someone that is trustworthy, and that's what really makes you angry, because they're probably right.
Right. I hate that.
And you're realizing, I put a lot of work into this bad idea.
Well, that idea, I mean, I've had them where I'm like that madman at the board, just like I have like a big, classroom size dry erase board. I'm like, oh, this is great, and that, and then I've got notes here and this here, and I have like notebooks and crap everywhere, and I'm like, oh, this is great, and then I'll like tell someone, like, oh yeah, that's kind of like this, and it's like, what is that? Really? Come on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now I'm finally on an idea where I think I'm good. But yeah, that writer's block. I mean, when writer's block, artist block, that is a discouraging moment. It is, especially when you kind of can't get out of that hole. And you're like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And there's times I'm like, screw it. A week goes by, and then I'm like, you know what? No, get back into it. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
Well, there's definitely value in stepping away, and like I took a couple of days off. I mean, I was stressed putting this thing together, and it was getting close, and I actually ran it by a Doug to Naples, and Doug's just blunt, and he was like, "This is good. This is trash. This is trash. This is good. This is good." And I was just like, "Oh no!" So it hit me at the moment when I was so stressed anyway. I was like, I just didn't work for like a day and a half. I was like, I'm just stepping away from this.
Right?
I'm like, I'm just backing off. And then, and the thing was too, leading into it, I had just been working long hours and not taking breaks, and I was stressed and tired. And once I got refreshed, my wife and we went out of town for our anniversary, and I didn't do anything. Like, I was just complete, I'm going to relax, smoke cigars, hang out. And then I came back and I was like, oh, you know what? He was right. And it's not as bad as I thought as it felt at the time. It was just like, you got to filter that out of your, especially when you're stressed.
Yeah.
And so you just, take a walk, go for a run, do something, just get away from the board and get a little bit better perspective when you come back.
Yeah. You know what I actually find too, and a few times it was just all in my head, but those nights where a couple buddies come over, we end up having a couple drinks or whatnot, they leave, I walk past my studio, and I just walk over to my table, and it's like, and I'm like working, and maybe like 7 out of 10 times I've actually created some good stuff, and there's other ones where I woke up like, man, I really killed it, huh? And I go down there and I'm like, what is this mess? What the heck is this?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
so,
but yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, like anytime that you feel bad about your bad ideas, like think about like Star Wars, or whatever thing that you really like, and look at early production art. Yeah. And think what Jabba the Hutt could have been, or Chewbacca could have been. Everything goes through these iterations of ideas that that in retrospect you're like, oh, that looks horrible. It's like, yeah, but you're looking at it backwards. They're looking at it forwards. They don't know what it's going to look like yet. And it should be encouraging because everybody knows, oh, if it had been that, this would have been not great.
Yeah.
But that's the process of creating. It's like it's not that people show up with the great idea. It's that people have the tenacity to keep at it and keep at it until it hits that thing where you're like, oh, nope, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's great with, I'd say smartphones saying everything, because a lot of times now, like I just read a comment, they get their great idea, and this was from Eric Huffles. I usually have story breakthroughs while walking the dog in the middle of the night, and I usually get it driving.
Yeah.
And what I'll do is, I've got the phone mounted on the dash, and I just go to that voice recorder app, and I just start talking everything out. And it's great because now that all these devices talk to each other, it goes on my phone, and the next I've got like my memos on the computer already and on here. I mean, it's one way. I mean, there's ways to really capture those ideas so you don't stay lost. But to move on with Gunship Thunderpunch, I mean, where is this story after this campaign? Is there another book that's going to be in the works?
I was thinking about that in the last, since this has done so well. I'm tentatively planning on doing a second book. I'm thinking about maybe even making it a trilogy because I had an idea where the next thing can go based on the ending of this. And, and it's like, if people are into this, let's tell more stories. Let's see where it goes. I've got, I've got other stories to work on too, but again, I'm trying to look year and a half, year ahead. What does next year look like? And if I can flesh out this world and people like it, I'm like, let's camp out here for a bit.
Man, there you go. That's great because we're getting a lot of questions about that.
Yep.
Trilogy, they're requesting a trilogy.
Trilogy.
The people have spoken.
Yeah, the people have spoken. So Brian Blevins asks, Brian, what are your thoughts of the rumbling of companies thinking that digital only is the future of comics, and do you think that print is on its way out?
No, I don't think print's on its way out. My larger philosophical point of view is we're physical beings and we like holding physical things. And there's just reading a book and turning the page is a different experience than reading an ebook. And I have done both, and I like to read, but I will always go back to the book. I think you process it better that way. But too, I think people want to own things. They want to hold things. They want the smell of the new book. They want, to feel the page and go back and forth. I think there will always be a market for digital. But digital only, to me, that personally sounds like trying to comic sales are down, therefore we must fix this. Oh, digital, it's probably all gonna be digital. Music went digital. And it's like, yeah, but you've never held music.
Exactly.
Right? You don't physically touch music. You still experience it the same way. Books and art are different.
I mean, you're not going to have, I remember like with CDs and stuff, you put the visor holder or something on there. I mean, having music digitally is very convenient. But comics, I mean, if I like something, I destroy it.
Too with like records came back, there is a charm and a warmth to just that sound of the needle on the record and on top of a song, and that's something that you can't really, it's a very physical thing, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why that records kind of suddenly came back. It's a trend too, but at the same time I think there's definitely something there, and people want to have books they can put on a bookshelf. They want to be able to take things down, and it's finding something on your phone is aggravating. But going to a book on your shelf and where's that book? Oh, here it is. You can pull it off and sit down. And I don't think it's and I think we can tell from sales too on Indiegogo, because I have a digital tier and I've sold a bit, but print is always higher.
Yeah, us too. I don't even know if I'm going to do for our next campaign a digital print. I don't think I will for the She one. I don't think I will. We have something special for our 25th anniversary one coming in November, but that's a totally different thing. But I don't think I don't think we're going to offer a digital thing. I don't really see the benefit of it.
Yeah, that's something that me and several other guys have been going back and forth, and I'm open either way. it's again, and after this campaign, I'm gonna look at it and say, well, how much support did that get? Is it worth it? Does it devalue, is it taking away from other sales? I don't think it is, but I don't know that it's, I don't know. I'm still on the fence,
Well, a
but
lot of
I don't think
guys,
it flips it.
they're sending out, and I've had this with a few campaigns I backed where you get, you can get the digital copy, right? And then you end up getting your digital copy before all your physical stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I personally don't really have any feelings to it. I don't know if anyone else does. I don't mind. Hey, send me the digital. That's cool. I'll skim through it. I still rather hold my book. But it's like it almost give you something to hold you over while you wait for your product to arrive. And I kind of like that. I do. But there's a lot of times the digital's been sent to me, but because I have to take it out of an email, load it into a device or something, I think it tends to just sit there.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of up in the air. Some people dig it, some people don't. Digital's great for nighttime reading when you're on a tablet or something, But I say stick with the real deal.
Yeah. I think, and most comic fans are that way too. I mean, you go to a Barnes and Noble, and you have the kids in the Japanese section. They're sitting on the floor reading the book. I mean, they're still buying those books.
Yeah.
They're the younger, they're teenagers. They're reading stuff. I mean, they have stuff on their iPads too, but you still see them take out a physical book and read the book because it's a different experience.
Yeah. So then we've got, let's see, C. Merwin asks, Brian Shearer, if the comic is madly successful, have you thought about action figures in the future?
I have, and I've actually had people kind of reach out to me talking about some things. Possibly. I'm still going back and forth, so I will say I have considered it. I would love for that to happen, and I'm looking into it.
What about an animated series to go with the action figures? That's my question.
I would love for those rights to be purchased. So somebody make me an offer.
There you go. We've heard that, you told us about the mistakes. Don't try to go too big, for your earlier projects. And I know that you're friends with Doug, who, I mean, we can't argue with Doug's success at all. But what's some of the best advice that you've got from another creator about comics, or more importantly, about the crowdfunding your books? Like even from fans, have you what's some good advice to give people that might want to be doing this?
Well, that's a great question. A lot of it has just come from, different people that have done things and it hasn't worked. I'm trying to think of anything in particular. I think the best thing, I can't remember who or where it came from, but was just the realization that by the time someone gets past the top 30 of your page, they've already decided whether or not they're going to back it or not. So that initial impact has to be just, spot on. Because I've seen a lot of people they have a lot of text up at top, or they have, this or that. And it's like, you've got to have that visual impact immediately. I know that a lot of people, I was going to put together this early on, I'm going to do an awesome video. It's going to have animation in it. It's going to do all this stuff. And then somebody was like, yeah, did you see Mitch Breitweiser's video? It was just like a shot of a field and him talking about the book. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, and then I started looking at other people, and it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't put all my energy into that. Maybe I should put my energy in just to have the page and the campaign. And the other thing too was I was so focused on the story and the plot and working out things that I can work out a little later on that were troubling me, or that needed to be worked out. What I wasn't working on was thinking of the campaign and the pitch as a thing in of itself. And instead of getting a little too far ahead, saying, well, what about in this act? I need a scene here and all that. It's like I needed at that moment to be thinking, all right, no, the thing I'm creating at this moment is the Indiegogo page. How do I take this story and put it into this page and get the images ready for that? That is the project I'm working on in that sense, is the pitch. And so that actually streamlined things a lot and took a lot of stress off because I was not focused on all these different things. I was like, in this moment, I need to be working on that. So it was just a different mindset. And and somebody had, I'd noticed that other people and some people were putting together some campaigns. That's what they were focusing on. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So I guess trying to do too much at once, and we're always thinking about the bigger picture, but we need to be reminded to break it up into these little things, in order to meet those goals. That's part of the business part of it that doesn't come naturally, I think, for us artists. But
yeah, but that's excellent advice. Excellent.
So, I had a question. So I've seen a few comments on here. Well, one, Eric Hawkins, he already has the titles for your trilogy. You got part 1, Thunder Punch, part 2, Thunder Kick, and part 3, Thunder Throat Punch. So, so your trilogies you're already starting to get some free input here to get some things rolling. They're moving along for you. But I've also seen some comments about your own YouTube channels and shows and paranormals.
Yeah, paranormals. Yeah, if you're not watching paranormals, you're missing the best time on the internet.
Oh my God, love that stuff.
So me and my buddy Elliot Fernandez, we put together this little show, and we look at all the latest paranormal, cryptozoological news. But we do kind of roast it a little bit.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But do you believe in it? Do you believe in any of it?
It depends. I have my opinions on what things are, okay. But the thing that we have discovered is that most of these things are consistently terribly written, and some of them are ridiculous, and some things you look at and you go, no, that's kind of creepy. But it's kind of, the thing is, it's developed its own kind of like little world that we originally started this thing. I think we've been doing it for a few months now, and we're just like doing the news and this or that. But then people in the chat too started developing like there were characters like Michael Caine. I do a Michael Caine impression, and he shows up, and he's part of the Paranormal Institute. So then I did a card where he can call in, and I can do my mic where it sounds like he's on a telephone. And then we got into OBS, and like we'll start doing like little little things here and there. And so it's become this thing now. That's what all the little red O's, because I didn't realize this until we did it. But every time you see a picture with anything on it, they always circle it in red. And so we realized that, and so now everybody adopted that as the O, the symbol for paranormals. So
I love that.
Yeah, we have a great time. It's Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. So on my channel, me and Elliot will have a good time.
Tomorrow? Are you guys live tomorrow? Or are you going to the Hero Show?
I'll be live tomorrow. I'm not going down to Heroes till Friday morning. So yeah.
I'll have to check that out tomorrow. I got to check that out tomorrow. I mean, I love that stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't never read the articles too much. I read some of them, but yeah, some are just like out there. And then I'll read some that are like, oh, that is kind of creepy. That's crazy.
Well, the great thing is we'll look at products too. Like there was somebody in North Carolina here that made Bigfoot juice, and they were selling it on Etsy as a thing that attracted Bigfoot. So one of our viewers bought it, and he emailed me, says, she said that it still hasn't come, and she says she has to go out and gather the ingredients, and I don't think he ever got it.
What is it supposed to be?
It's supposed to attract Bigfoot, is what it said, and I'm like, all right. We also did a story about a couple in like the Midwest or somewhere that called the police because there was a My Pillow guy standee, and they called the police because they said, oh, there's a deranged man with a pillow and he's not moving. And Ethan started streaming during our show, and the chat all on their own decided if you stream during our show, they're going to send you a Mike Lindell standee. And so about a week later, him and Mike Miller start unboxing these full size My Pillow guy standees.
I saw that.
That was from
that. Oh.
Yeah, that was our viewers. I still don't know exactly who did it, but keep it up, guys.
Yeah, that is awesome. I want one of those.
That is fantastic. Brilliant. I love, sometimes you got to love the internet, you know?
Oh, yeah. That's the kind of thing, too. It's doing that stuff. Initially, you're like, well, I'm just goofing around. I'm not working, or I'm not doing this. But, when you do things like that it's the same audience. It's still your audience. It's still the fans, and you're doing something fun. And when they back your book, it's like they're saying thank you for all this content that you put out that you don't charge for, right? So that's kind of part of my business, has become part of my whole business model. Is I'm more trying to do more than just be a comic creator. I'm just trying to entertain a little bit and as best I can and be helpful and maybe make you laugh. And then when I do a book, maybe you'll back it. So it all kind of rolls into the same thing in my mind anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool, man. That's awesome. So how long have you guys been doing that show again?
I think we've been doing it since January, I think.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I'm gonna have to get in on that.
Yeah. Tomorrow night at 9, everybody.
We'll watch
Join
it, man.
us.
We'll see how it goes. Awesome. So hey guys, let's get into we got two crowdfunding call outs tonight. The first one we have is brought to us by Brian, and this is a Doom Kicker by Elliot Fernandez. So Brian, if you want to give us a little scoop on this and a shout out.
Yeah, Elliot Fernandez, my paranormal pal, and Doug Tenaple. We all do Doug's show in the about noon on Doug's channel. But they're doing a book that Doug wrote, and Elliot is I think he's kind of co-writing, co-creating with him. But he's doing all the art, and Elliot is phenomenal. Check all that stuff out. Oh, but it's kind of a creepy every man gets caught in a situation in a conspiracy with supernatural badness, and he's a loser, but he's got to rise up. And look at those monsters and stuff. Yeah, so there you go. That's it's good stuff, good looking stuff. Not so much that, but there we go.
That's a good. He's a handsome man.
Yeah. Elliot is fantastic. If you like Elliot's art, I would definitely check it out. He's got some good stuff. He started a day after me, and he passed me. That dude.
That's awesome. Now they have a video. They do have a video. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to play this video. And again, for our viewers out there, they'll hear the lovely video. As for us, we won't. So, but you're still in view.
Hank is a frustrated small-town security guard who wants to live up to his father's legacy as the town sheriff finds himself stuck. He stumbles on a local conspiracy that will turn his world upside down. This is a story of the everyman in all of us versus the darkness of the great unknown. The story of good versus evil with all the gray in between. What if doing the right thing costs you your soul? Doom Kicker is a 96-page supernatural tale of suspense coming at you fast from former Marvel and DC comic artist Elliot Fernandez and Doug Tenaple, creator of Earthworm Jim. Contribute today to help Hank save his town and maybe even the world. Doom Kicker.
Oh, nice.
That's a great video.
That is a great video.
Short. That's like under a minute.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, it's a good description of the book, some good imagery.
Yep, short and sweet. That's how you want it.
That's it. Fantastic.
Art looks fantastic too. Now, Brian, why can't you make a video like this?
I can.
I'm kidding.
Maybe I will. I'll show you.
There you go.
I'll show the world. So, Brian, if you don't mind, can you tell us where you're going to be? Appearance-wise, I know you're going to be on. You're on Doug's show. You're on your show. You're on our show. Thank you very much. But aside from the social media, what conventions will you be at?
I will be at Heroes Con this weekend, and hopefully smoking some cigars with you.
Indeed,
my cigar pals. And then after that, next weekend, I will be at Joe Fest. It's a G.I. Joe show in Augusta, Georgia. I'm going to San Diego. I don't set up. I just wander around and smoke cigars. And then I will be, I think, in Pikeville, Kentucky at a show. And I think that's July or August. And where else will I be? That's a good question. I usually do Baltimore.
Excellent. Oh,
you're nice.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have our Scotch Con in Baltimore.
At Baltimore.
Oh, you're speaking my language.
And then cigars and scotch. We all do it outside the host hotel. Last year it got to be about 40 people, maybe more.
Nice.
And everyone brings a flask or brings a bottle and your cigars or your pipes, and it's a great time. But also the same thing in San Diego. I'll see you in San Diego as well. And let's do that there as well.
Yeah.
Doug, and we'll smoke. We already talked to Doug. We'll smoke some cigars. We'll put together a night for sure.
Yeah, that sounds great. Sounds
Are
great.
you by yourself, or do you bring other? Are you with a couple other people?
Well, for San Diego, I think I'm flying out with Randy Green, and I think Kelly Yates is going to be there, and we're rooming together. And usually it's just me, and sometimes I bring a friend of mine with me and get him out of the house. But I know Heroes is just going to be like I said, all my cigar pals bailed on me.
Well, now you've got a couple others that won't.
All right.
And I'll be one of them, by golly.
All right, that sounds great.
So Brian, I have to ask. Some guy said Larry Hama talks very highly of you. So what was it like?
That's
working with the great Larry Hama.
That's a joke. My story about Larry Hama is that I worked for him for I don't know, worked with him for how many years, and I've met him for the first time like 10 times. And I was on my favorite story is I was on a panel a couple years ago at a show in New Hampshire, and it was a Joe panel. He was at one end, and there was a guy in between us, and then me, and then another guy. And they said, the moderator said, "Would you introduce yourselves?" And he said, "I'm Larry Hama, blah, blah, blah." And then the guy next to me introduced himself, and I said, "Yeah, I'm Brian Shearer. I've been inking Real American Hero for, so years." And out of the corner of my eye, I see Larry lean back and go, "The hell is that guy?" So that's pretty much sums up my relationship with Larry. I will say that I've had dinner with him 3 times, and he's a fantastic storyteller over dinner. If you ever get a chance to go have dinner with Larry, get him talking about working in comics in the 70s and 80s and all that crazy stuff. Like everybody will just sit there staring at him, listening to his stories. He will not remember you a week later or a day later, and just accept that. It doesn't matter. It's not personal. He just doesn't. I guess he knows enough people.
It's just the way it is.
Frank, amazing. Did you put a request in on a sketch and he crossed it off? Yeah, so Frank Amazing at Terrificon was it last year. You put the list in and what you want, a sketch or whatnot. And, Frank goes back to check. He's like, he crossed mine off. He just didn't want to do it, so he just crossed his off.
That sounds like Larry.
Maybe some other time, Frank Amazing. And that's why we don't show Frank's face, so you can get that sketch.
What did Frank want?
What did you want?
A refrigerator Perry.
Refrigerator Perry.
He wouldn't do that. I don't think he would do that, or Sergeant Slaughter.
No.
Yeah, I don't think he. I think he has beef with those 2 characters.
Would you do it, Brian?
I'll do it.
There you go. Problem solved.
Now, is this really the refrigerator? The refrigerator Perry was in G.I. Joe?
Yeah. Him and Sergeant Slaughter came out about the same time.
Yeah.
But there was something that Larry didn't like about. I don't know if it was because they were kind of real people coming in from the outside or what it was, but he does not like those 2 characters. So I can't. It doesn't surprise me. He crossed it off.
That was just a fun time. He's like, shoot, he crossed it off.
That's so funny. You go there and you're not going to say it. You're not going to question him.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
Okay, yeah, Larry. Okay.
I don't even think he was there. I don't think he was there when we wrote the request on the paper, and I don't think he was there when we went and checked, because it's almost like he's hard to spot.
Yeah.
But you leave a list and you hope to come back, and I think he leaves the sketches out, and you can come and pick your sketch up.
Wow.
If my memory serves me correct.
He did a promo for us. He did a little. You're watching Crowdfunding Comics.
Yes,
but I will not draw. The refrigerator.
Yeah, don't bring that up. No. All right, guys, this has been a great show, Brian. Man, really appreciate having you on tonight.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
This has been fun. Anytime you got something coming on, reach out. Or if you see any promos for a guest you like and you want to be a guest host, feel free. Pop into the jungle and hang out with us again.
Cool.
Yeah, and please, everybody out there, Gunship Thunderpunch, man.
Yes, and Doom Kicker.
Amazing. What a great concept. The art is amazing. I mean, Brian, you really killed it. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
It really is. I got a question. One last one though. Doing your paranormal. Have you ever had a paranormal experience?
The closest I've ever had is like a night terror, where you're paralyzed but you're awake, and then you see like shadow person come through the window or something, or you feel like there's something in the room with you.
Oh my! I had the same dream.
Yeah.
Oh, we got it.
But
I had the same night terror, the same thing.
Yeah.
When did you have yours?
Sleep paralysis.
I mean, I've had like probably 3 in my life. Yeah, sleep paralysis. Yeah, so your eyes are open, and you think you're awake, but you can't move, and you just have this overwhelming sense that something evil is in the room, or you see like somebody. The last time I had it, I was actually, it was a couple months ago. I've only had like 3 or 4 in my life, but I had one. I was laying on the couch after working late or something. I was laying there, and I could have sworn I heard a football game. Like I was awake, my eyes were open, and I had the sense that the former owner of my house was back watching a football game, and that they were pulling like the blanket off of me, and then I kind of like, I was like, I gotta get up, and I couldn't move. I was like, and then you get that, finally you get that, and then you're awake, and you're like, oh, what the crap was that?
Oh man, you know how you cure that though? You know how
Don't
you
ever
stop that
sleep.
from happening? No, when you
Scotch.
walk away from your drink. Go get a new one when you come back.
There you go. Well, thank you, Brian. I mean, you're awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing you Friday.
Yeah.
Show everybody who's going to Heroes. Do you know where your table will be?
I think it's Artist Alley 410.
Boom. Please go visit them again in San Diego. I'm looking forward to seeing you there too. Baltimore, Nile, the Crowdfunding Comics crew will be in Baltimore, correct?
Yep, we'll be in Baltimore. Awesome. We'll be at New York. We'll be at Terrificon. And by golly,
we're gonna have to stream ScotchCon live.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Awesome.
With the Mobile Blevins studio.
Yes. Well, thank you, my friend. It was really great to have you on. Really great to meet you. And again, looking forward to some pretty. We're gonna get in trouble together. Looking forward to those adventures.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
All right. Good night, guys. I'm
everyone.
gonna finish this darn thing.
Finish that darn thing, Billy.
All right.
You're awesome. Thanks, guys. See you later.
All right, have a great night, guys. Thank you. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks again for tuning into Crowdfunding Comics. We look forward to hanging out with all of our crowdfunding fans every time we go live. And don't forget to click the link below and subscribe to our channel. And there's a little bell. You may want to hit that too. This way you get all the great notifications when we go live and when we upload some awesome content. You want to follow us? Sure, go right ahead at Twitter at CrowdFundComics with an X, Instagram Crowdfunding Comics, and Facebook at Crowdfunding Comics. Till next time, crowdfunding fans, we'll see you soon.